afternoon, everyone. I call everybody, a call this meeting to order for the Effingham County Board of Commissioners. They're stuck with me again tonight, the second time, so I will muddle through. Definitely a long way from Wesley from the chairman, but I'll do my best. I've got some good support here, so we'll get through it. But it's now 5:05 p.m. on June 15th. It's on a Tuesday. And like everybody, Jamie, if you don't mind, would you give an invocation? Everybody rise for an invocation as remain standing for the pledge of allegiance.
Please bow your heads. Dear Lord, thank you for this wonderful day, and please be with us this evening and help us to do your will. Please be with our world leaders during these times, Lord, and in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 4 on the agenda is consideration of a resolution to approve the agenda. I don't know if we had any changes.
Yes, sir. We have an amendment to the agenda. So under your planning board items number 17 through 19. Planning board recommends approving an application by Joseph Guyton as agent for PEF KOS Land and Timber LLC to rezone .90 acres located at 1445 Old Dixon Highway from R1 to AR1 to be combined with an adjacent parcel, map number 364A, parcel 36 in the 3rd district. We received an email within the past hour from the applicant requesting this item be postponed to the July 20th meeting. Yes.
Is that 17, 18, and 19?
Yes, 17 through 19. 17 through 19.
What about 16?
I'm sorry, 16.
Okay.
Yes, 16, 17, 18, and 19.
Okay.
And that was July
20.
Any other changes? With that in mind, we have a motion to approve the agenda as written.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach and a second by Mr. Floyd. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. We have an agenda. Next up, item 5 is the minutes. Consideration to approve the June 1st, 2021 work session minutes and the regular commission minutes. Any corrections to the minutes or additions?
I'm abstaining from voting on it.
And please let the record show that Commissioner Lumber was not here for the last meeting. Hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
It's a motion to approve by Commissioner Deloach and a second by Commissioner Kiefer. All in favor say aye. All opposed no. Motion carries. Approve the minutes. Six, I'd like to welcome the public tonight. If you would please comment to agenda items only, speak clearly in the microphone, state your full name for the record, and try to limit to that 5 minutes so that everybody has a chance to speak. All of our documents from this meeting are located in the clerk's office and on the Board of Commissioners website. And I believe item 8 would be, we have a guest, Robert Hunter, scheduled for 5:05. Mr. Hunter.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, Commissioners, staff, and guests. I stand before you to represent the Guyton Ferguson Cemetery Committee. I have two committee members with me, Mr. Powell and Sister Pearl Bowens. We are the committee that manages the Ferguson Cemetery at Guyton. We've a charter committee that's registered with the Secretary of State of Georgia. We have been in existence for approximately 15 years. We manage it in that we maintained it. Before we had a committee, it was basically fly-by-night. The original was when the cemetery was developed. It was each family took a plot and they were supposed to be responsible for maintaining that plot. But over the period of years, 100 years or so, there's a lot of plots that no longer have family members in the area. And some of the plots that have family members in the area, family do not keep it up. It was becoming a very eyesore for the community of Guyton when there was a funeral going on. So we come up with the idea, this form a committee, make it legal, and manage it. We've come with a request. We've done some upkeep. We charge us a fee for burial. That fee is for the maintenance. We are a non-profit organization. We do not receive no monies for our services. We are totally volunteer. And we've done some improvements. We continue to do some improvements. We've established a road that enters at one spot in the cemetery and exit at another spot. The entrance, if you go visit the cemetery, which is located behind the Guyton Elementary School, you'll see an arc. And on that arc, we've had someone to build it. It says Guyton Ferguson Cemetery with the date of establishment. We are requesting some help in getting something to identify the road. The road is grass. We've had some issues with when they come to visit the cemetery and use. Due to non-planning, the best we could do, there's still some vault tops close to the road, and some people have ventured off of the road onto the vault tops. And we come to request to see what can the county commissioners give us an idea, help us come up with maybe some kind of gravel, even when there's a resurfacing a highway. I've noticed that I'm quite sure it belongs to the state. Maybe we could get a few loads of it and spread it just to identify paths when people come. I've measured it. It's approximately 500 feet from the entrance to the exit, and somewhere around 8 feet wide. And we'd just like for you all to have a consideration, and if it's any way possible that you could help us out, we would appreciate it.
Mainly gravel to go in this.
Some gravel. Like I said, we're a non-profit. We might go sometime, which is good. We might go 6 months, 8, 9 months without a burial. But the grass continue to grow, maintenance continue to, so our funds will get very low. We have had to kind of put in a little ourselves to keep it going.
Mr. Hunter, do you know how much space is left out there?
Pardon me?
How much space is left in the area for burials? Is it almost full, or what's the?
It's getting close. We have some land that's not been cleared. A number of years ago, Mr. Lawton's niece donated probably 2 acres of land on the backside, but it hasn't been cleared. We don't have the funds to get it cleared. It's large trees, undergrowth. But right now, we are not in no buying or nothing for burial sites. But there is a day coming if we don't create some extra space.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hunter. That's something we definitely want to consider. Maybe some funds or possibly something we can do ourselves, at least to help.
I can look into that. I mean, I think there are some concerns on legality of it. And so if it's and it's also if it's within the bounds of Guyton, it's another problem. But I'll do some research on it and get back to you.
Okay, thank you. With that, we'll move on to our consent agenda. Item number 1 on the consent agenda is consideration to approve and accept first payment from the U.S. Department of the Treasury for the American Rescue Plan grant funds in the amount of $6,244,372. Number 2 would be consideration to approve and execute a capacity agreement with the State of Georgia Department of Corrections. Number 3 is consideration to approve to renew the agreement for lodging excise tax distribution with the Effingham County Chamber of Commerce. Number 4 is consideration to approve a contract to serve as fiscal agent for Family Connection for the 2021-2022 year. Number 5 is consideration to approve to renew the memorandum of understanding with the Effingham County Board of Education for the use of 7 buses for the purpose of evacuation to automatically renew for the period of July 1st, 2021 to June 30, 2022. Number 6 is consideration to approve ratification of an agreement renewal with Tar Heel Medical Billing, DBA Colleton Software Incorporated, for EMS billing services. Number 7 is consideration to approve to issue and amend the contract with Effingham Animal Hospital for veterinary services for Effingham County Animal Shelter. And number 8, consideration to approve revisions to 4.02 Education and Training of the Human Resources Standards and Practice. I have a motion concerning the agenda.
Make a motion to approve as read.
Second.
Motion approved by Commissioner Loper, second by Commissioner Kiefer. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And we have an approved consent agenda. Next up is old business. And one item. This is the second reading. It's consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Chad Zipper as agent for Ernest Zipper to rezone 4.5 acres out of 107.64 acres located on Hodgeville Road from AR1 to B2 to allow for a stormwater basin to service an adjacent commercial project, map number 417, parcel number 1 in the 2nd district. I believe this is the one we talked about last time. We just haven't put in stipulations where it had to be carried forward.
That's correct, right? So we have to go to this meeting.
With that said, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Burdette and second by Commissioner Floyd. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And it carries. Next up is new business. And first up, we have consideration to approve the second reading of the 2021-2022 fiscal year budget and budget ordinance. Mr. Garvin.
Good evening. This is the second reading, so you're going to see some changes in here as we go through it. Okay. First to note that the PT 32 is not quite in yet, but we have based this on a very good preliminary number from the tax assessor. The salary survey final report has been received and is included in this draft. We are still pending the service delivery agreement, and the implementation of the vehicle fleet program is in this draft as well. The capital requests were $60.6 million, and we have approved $52.1 million across all the funds, which include the fleet program. And a complete listing of those items are in the budget. So the FY22 general fund budget is proposed at $40.581947, and that's an increase of 28.91% over the adopted budget of 21. But if you remember, that was a very conservative budget because of COVID. So it's better to look at the amended budget that we did in December. So that's an increase of 17.67%.
But part of this increase is going to be with the new fleet program that we have as well, correct?
Right,
Because we're
that
paying
includes the
upfront
fleet.
for those vehicles.
Right.
Okay.
So in this current year, we've added 3 positions, 2 were public safety and 1 in judicial services. This budget is requesting 15 new positions, and they're broken out for you: 3 in judicial services, public safety has 7, IT has 2, and administrative has 3. The personnel increased by $3.6 million, which includes all of the added staff just above, the implementation of the salary survey, and a supplement for the forestry fire ranger. The general fund's proposing using just over $1 million of fund balance with no contingency funds. And the budget is proposed using the rollback rate for county M&O, which is currently estimated at 7.337 mils. For SPLOST, you have a proposed budget of $20.6 million, which is an increase of 25.97 against the amended version of December. And the expenses that you see for SPLOST are here: 3.6 for roads, $2 million for drainage, 2.5 for equipment, 1.2 million for recreation, 2.5 for the cities, and 8.5 for water and sewer. And that's using a fund balance of 10.1. For special tax district, your proposal is 5.9 million. It's 16.05% increase over the amended in December. And you have special tax transfers to other funds of 1.3 million. Public Works is 2.2, Recreation and Sports Management 1.4, and Parks and Landscape 838,000. So your fund balance usage is broken out here. The total fund balance is large, but if you pay attention to the breakout, a lot of that's your bond money and your American Relief Plan Act money, your ARPA money that has come in. So you expect those to be there, and you expect them to be large. Your millage rate is based on a county M&O rollback rate of 7.337, a hospital at 1.6, roads at 1.25, and rec and parks at 0.75. Springfield and Guyton will pay a millage for recreation, which will be the 0.65, and the millage for Fort Howard Roundabout will be canceled because it has been paid. What you're going to see new in this budget is the county manager's department, which is Department 111, a new T-SPLOST department with bond funds, that's Department 335. You're going to see 6.2 million of that American Rescue Plan money, the addition of a stormwater utility fund. Debt service has been reopened and utilized for the T-SPLOST bond. And GIS was moved from IT Department 136 to their previous General Fund Department 225. Department 600 is also added in there, and that's an internal service fund for your partially funded insurance plan. All of the outside agency recommendations are included in the budget. The adoption of the millage will happen later after the Board of Education, and the schedule of fees will be brought back to you after the review of all the fees by the department heads. You have any questions?
What is our fund balance level after this?
The general fund,
Yeah, general fund.
you're going to be fine.
Okay.
It's, keep in mind that there's two portions of that fund balance. There's that roughly 6.2 million, which is kind of our rainy day fund, economic stabilization. And then in addition to that, we have our unrestricted fund balance. And while it does show a use of $1 million of that, I think the last check we had, it was at roughly 40% or somewhere around there, roughly 40%. And that's 40% above and beyond our stabilization fund. So while we while we put in the budget that our intention to use $1 million of fund balance, our hope is that that doesn't come to fruition because we do still, particularly in the general fund, budget conservatively.
And I will say we are planning to build on that fund balance in 21 when 21 is closed out. So you're looking to add more to what's already in.
I know our revenue's been doing good, and I think we expect some more increased revenue going forward. And we've got a healthy fund balance. And I know this is a aggressive budget, but I think we're getting a lot done, especially we're making some long-term improvements to some of our facilities, making some of our campuses useful. And I just want to make sure we weren't funding too much of that fund balance, but it doesn't sound like that's the case.
Your general
Sounds like
fund-
we're in good shape.
General fund's very healthy.
Yeah.
Any other comments from the board, questions? And also, we're adding personnel, we're growing, and in a good way. It's good to see. So I think we'll find some efficiencies along that way too as we add and get people to specialize in these areas and grow these departments and also grow as a county. It's going to keep out. Anyone else has anything for the entertained motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the second reading of the fiscal year budget for 2021 and 2022.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Deloach and second by Commissioner Lowe. All in favor say aye. Aye. All in opposition, no. And it carries. Next up is a consideration to approve publication section 6.13, county cell phone use to human resources standards and practice. So Ms. Vicki Dunn.
Good evening. I'm Vicki Dunn, HR Director. Yes, sir, the first policy we have on here is 6.13, which is the Effingham County cell phone use. What this does is establishes procedures and responsibilities for the employees that are issued the county cell phones. The regulation was provided to our IT director for his review, as well as the county manager. It was also reviewed by the county attorney, and he approved this approved to form, I'm sorry. Staff recommends alternative 1.
Questions or comments? Have a motion, please. Motion to approve by Commissioner Floyd, and second by Commissioner Kiefer. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All those in opposition, no. And it carries. Another for Ms. Vicki, a consideration to approve publication of section 6.16, return to work to the human resources standards and practice.
Yes, sir. This is a new policy that was recommended to us by ACCG LGRMS, which is the risk management safety portion of ACCG. We did not have a return to work policy in place. Basically, what this is going to do is establish guidelines and requirements for county employees that have maybe been injured on the job or actually injured outside of the job, getting them to return to work as soon as possible. Letting them know that we do have light duty available in most instances, and just gives everybody the information that we do have the light duty available and to get them back to work as soon as possible. It has been reviewed and is approved to form by the county manager, the county attorney, and has been reviewed by the county manager.
This will flow from like workers' comp.
Absolutely.
Right. Get it back to work quicker.
Yes, sir.
Any questions or comments? Entertain a motion, please.
Make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion approved by Commissioner Kiefer, second by Commissioner Deloach. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And it carries. And we got you one more time, Ms. Vicky. Consideration to approve publication of Section 2.15, Travel, Employment, and Board of Commissioners expenses to the Human Resources Standards and Practice.
Yes, sir, this is actually republishing this policy 2.15. It deals with the travel, employment, and the expenses as far as what the county will pay for the board as well as our employees if they have to travel for conferences and training, things like that. It was first rescinded whenever the financial policies were drafted, and it was covered in that, but there wasn't enough information in that. This is the actual details of what the mileage is, when you can claim mileage, the cost of meals and things like that that you can be reimbursed for. Staff recommends alternative 1.
Questions?
Make a motion to approve item number 1.
Second.
Motion approved by Commissioner Loper, and second was that Commissioner Deloach. Commissioner Deloach. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. And it carries.
Thank you, sir.
And number 5 would be a consideration to approve a policy instituting Effingham County Park and Recreation Area hours for all county public properties and facilities. That's what Ms. Stephanie Johnson.
So I'm actually presenting this on behalf of our Assistant County Manager who was unable to be here tonight. He received correspondence from our church specialist, facilities department, about posting hours for our county facilities. Currently, there aren't any posted. The intent is to come back and add this information to the code, but they felt like time was of the essence to do it right now. So they're asking that this policy be implemented with a follow-up of a change to the code.
It's a good idea. You don't have a handle on the time differential from spring and fall.
It's dusk to dawn.
Dusk to dawn, so basically dark,
Yes.
which is better.
Unless there's an organized event.
Yeah, well, lights and
Yeah.
things like that. Yeah.
That's noted in the
But
policy.
other than that, keep on vandalism and some other issues.
Okay.
Any questions or comments?
How would it affect like the batting cages that are lit and used?
They still require, this would affect that. And that if it's past dark and it's no longer, and the park is no longer staffed, then the park would be closed. But if there's some level of staffing there, then it can remain open because it's got the lights in it.
You probably want to get some pushback on that, because especially here in the summer when it's so hot, people want to wait till the sun goes down to go out there with their kids and
Or when it's
turn the
dark at
lights on
5:30.
and use it. Not,
Or when it's dark at 5:30.
well, that's right, same time. So just,
Probably
Do
work
that.
with that as we go.
yeah. That's just one that I thought of,
Right.
that it could negatively impact.
Any questions or discussion? Can you entertain a motion?
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Deloach, second by Commissioner Loper. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no.
Aye.
And it carries. Number 6 is consideration to approve purchase of 1,500 master meters from Consolidated Pipe in order to complete replacement upgrades of the census meters. This is Ms. Christie Garvin.
Yes, Christy Carpenter, Finance Director. We're asking to purchase 1,500 meters. We have a discounted rate of $175 apiece, and we need to replace these. These are the old meters that have been in the ground for quite a while. Some of them are starting to die, some of them have quit working already, and we've replaced a lot of them. But this would take care of the remaining older meters and bring all of our meters into master meters. The cost is going to be $262,500, and it is in the FY22 budget. we shouldn't receive them until July, but we anticipate there'll be a rush on these meters with some of the new funding that's coming down. So we'd like to go ahead and get our order in. So staff's recommending approval, alternative number 1.
We've been talking about this for a couple of years now.
We have,
So will this take care of all that are required to get it done?
this should take out all the census meters, and we should have only master meters in the ground at that point.
That require less labor.
Much.
Should save us some, probably make that up in a couple of years.
Right now, they have to do a lot of rereads because meters, stop working or don't give us the right read any longer. So we've replaced a lot of those in the last couple of months. They've done a really good job of getting those meters in the ground and making our lives a lot easier, their lives a lot easier, having to reread fewer meters. But this will take care of those old ones. And it also, we only have one machine that can read these, and we can't buy another one. So if it dies, then we're manually reading all of these meters. So it would be nice to go ahead and get them replaced.
Will this be the same bank of meters for new construction, or
Would
is
it-
all going towards?
These 1,500 meters would be just to replace the old census ones.
Any other questions or discussion? Entertain a motion, please.
Make a motion, we give alternative 1.
Second.
Motion approved by Commissioner Floyd, second by Commissioner Loper. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All in opposition, no. And it carries.
Thank you.
Number 7 is consideration to approve a revised final plat for Hunter's Walk subdivision related to lots 5 and 6 located opposite Tower Road, map number 374F, parcel number 5-6 in the 1st district. Lisa?
Yes, I did have a slide, but apparently it's not on this version. So this is a final plat that was approved many years ago, and I have the original, and it was on the slide. It was approved in, well, I don't know if you're at. So this subdivision was approved, and the current owners of 2 parcels wish to combine them and build a home right down the middle. And in order to do that, rather than just do a recombination plat, which normally the zoning administrator would sign, because this was a final plat approved by the Board of Commissioners back in the day, it had to come back through the board for approval. And that's all we're asking tonight, is that you approve the revision to the final plat, so the owners of this parcel can combine them and build a house.
Just to recon line up the lots.
And they're large lots, it's not like a half-acre lot.
Any other discussion or questions? Entertain a motion?
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
It's a motion to approve by Commissioner Floyd, second by Commissioner DeLuch. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All in opposition, no. And it carries. Number 8, consideration to approve a railroad easement agreement between Savannah Industrial Logistics LLC and Effingham County located near McCall Road.
So we were approached late last year by Omnitrax representatives who have built a railroad across McCall Road and wish to obtain an easement so that they can do maintenance and repairs as necessary. The county attorney reviewed it, and there's a good bit of revision going back and forth. So now with it has come back to life with some change in staffing at Omnitrax, a new contact wishes to just clear the decks and get this one processed. So again, the county manager, assistant county manager, and county attorney did look at it, and any necessary revisions have been made. Proposed easement is for just a portion of the public road and right of way on McCall Road, and it's the purpose of railroad management and maintenance within the right of way, and the grantee is responsible for all costs and expenses incurred in connection with improvements constructed on the railroad property. The agreement runs with the land and is binding on future owners, and then the county must provide 120 days of written notice of any modifications to McCall Road on or near the easement area, and also provide reasonable notice of environmental issues, improvements, etc., that may impact the easement area. And county attorney, as I said, has reviewed and approved the agreement as to form. Staff recommends alternative 1.
if we approve this, this is the new one on McCall Road they just did. Does that mean they're actually gonna come and do some repairs on the new one? Because in my opinion, if this is not the worst railroad crossing in the county, it's the second worst. I crossed it yesterday, and I thought I lost my front axle. I mean, it's horrible.
And I have spoken with Brain Hurden about that. It's technically Norfolk Southern line, and he's arranging communication with them to smooth that out. And I just told him my experience was when it started off, it seemed not to be that bad. It's actually gotten worse. And I just think it's a center area just kind of settling in. And so, I mean, technically this agreement would give them the ability to repair it, although we would have let them do that anyway. But we are working with Norfolk Southern, or trying to arrange a meeting with Norfolk Southern to address that issue, because we've actually had, not just you, we've had other complaints as
Yeah,
well.
I've had actually quite a few phone calls on it.
This doesn't compel them to fix it.
No, doesn't compel them to fix it, it just gives them.
But there is communication going to them, though.
What's that?
There is communication
Yes.
going to them. That's good. That's good enough. I'll pass that along.
Any other questions or comments?
I'll make a motion to approve if there's no other questions or comments.
Second.
Motion approved by Commissioner Deloach, with a second by Commissioner Loper. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Number 9 is a consideration to approve to renew the professional services agreement with the Effingham County Chamber of Commerce. Councilman.
Yes, good evening. Allison Bruton, purchasing agent. This is a request to renew the annual professional services agreement currently in place with the Chamber of Commerce. The agreement obviously requires the Chamber to perform certain services, and the county will provide compensation for those services. This has been previously reviewed and approved by the county attorney and by the board, so we're just requesting a renewal.
Any questions? Entertain a motion, please. Motion to approve by Commissioner Floyd, with a second by Commissioner Kiefer. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Motion carries. You're up again.
Yes, sir.
Consideration to approve the year 2 payment for technical service support agreement with Stryker for EMS equipment.
Yes, sir. So last year an agreement was approved. EMS had an agreement with Physio Control for LifePak devices and an agreement with Stryker for the Lucas and PowerCot devices. Stryker bought out Physio Control, so we combined all of those into one agreement. We're just requesting approval for year 2 payment.
Questions or comments? Entertain a motion, please.
Make a motion to approve all number 1. Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Loper, with a second by Commissioner Kiefer. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 11 is consideration to approve appointment of members to the library board, Live Oak Public Libraries.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we received an email from the director of the library board regarding 2 positions that will be expiring, or seats that will be expiring. There's also a vacated seat by Mr. Weddle, so that's 3 vacancies upcoming as of June 30th. So he provided 3 names of individuals that he supports in being appointed to the board, and those individuals are listed in your material as Erica Bezendos, Jancy Jackson, and Tracy Spain. Ms. Jackson will be appointed to serve the unexpired term for Mr. Weddle, and the other 2 individuals will be appointed to the new year for those other 2 positions. Staff recommends approval as presented.
These are just recommended by the library board itself, and
The
they're
director.
not district sensitive or anything like that. Just so I know. Any questions or discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve the 3 appointees that have been presented.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Deloach, The second by Commissioner Loper. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. And it carries. Number 12, consideration to approve to reappoint Herb Jones to the Coastal Regional Commission Council for a one-year term.
You all should be very familiar with this one. Mr. Jones has served on this board for many years. His current term is set to expire on June 30th. I have heard from the city of Springfield and the city of Lincoln. Their councils have both reappointed him to this office. Haven't received any information from Guyton. The staff recommends approval from the board of commissioners.
I've heard that a couple of times.
Make a motion to approve all number one.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Loper, second by Commissioner DeLuch. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. And it carries. Number 13 is consideration to approve to award a contract task order to design and provide construction management services for a full implementation of boiler ash roads on the 2021 T-SPLOST project list. Okay.
Yes, this is, will be the second award based on the IDC list of contractors that was approved to take effect July 1st. This was for the full depth reclamation engineering only for the ash roads projects that were listed in the T-SPLOST funding program. The county received 3 responses, and the responses varied based on the amount of estimated amount of testing and the estimated amount of time that construction would take. Because those variables, particularly the construction time, really is not controlled by the engineer, we decided to look at try and put each of these proposals on a level playing field. So we equalize the number of tests and we equalize the construction time. On the last page of the proposal, it gives detail. I actually had the engineer expand that a little bit, and if you all got the email I sent out last night, but I'll add it to the record. And so what happens is that if the project was based over 16 weeks with 117 cores and 10 mix samples, the results would come in at Atlas at 169,618, Coleman at 322,539, and Roberts at 274,94. Now the staff is recommending the higher or the second place bidder based on that level, which is Roberts, and that was simply based on the approach provided. Of the 3 proposals that we got, they were the only one who provided any sort of experience with full depth reclamation with ash roads, which is a little bit unique. Full depth reclamation is generally done on asphalt, on old asphalt roads. They were using the same emulsion company, which is kind of the science behind this, that did the ash road, sample road on Indigo Road, which has performed extremely well for us over the last year. So with that, staff is recommending alternative 1, which is to award the task order for Roberts Civil Engineering. Their original proposal had a much longer construction time, but again, they don't control that. And so their proposal had a 26-week proposal time. So the proposal construction time, so their proposal came in at 449,285. So we're recommending that you award this to Roberts Civil Engineering. in that amount, but of course, they will not use it if the construction doesn't take that long.
And normally I'm extremely price sensitive on things like this, but it'll light up all the problems we've had with ash roads. You need expertise in that area.
There would be other people, but anyway, how big the problem was, all we got was on Roberts, Civil Engineering Company. We didn't get nothing on Atlas or Golden and Company. I mean, Roberts Engineering Company is not the only person that could fix these ash roads. So I'm not going to vote for it. I'll make a motion to table it till our next meeting. And I'll have time to, because I don't have nothing on it. So, but as far as I'm concerned, our county county engineer, he's the one that picked these. We don't have any choice. Our alternate was approve this to them or either table it. So I'm gonna take the second and take no action and table it.
Well, we did approve a new method for choice a few meetings ago that they could elect so many contractors to be able to work with us.
Well, I know that. I don't have no problem with that.
I think they followed that in this case to the letter. And
But we don't have nothing on the other two contractors. I don't have nothing on Golden and Company and Atlas.
I think it's because it's your bid.
So we don't just give it to them out and clear the sky.
I'm not against tabling it, but I know that we don't have one contractor that's been able to help us. And that was wrong.
Yeah, but all the issues we've had and so far with the success, because they were the one that pitched this idea, this method with Indigo Road, and it has been really very successful so far. And it is definitely different from what other people are trying. I know a lot of people are trying this out in Texas and the West, but it is proven in the southeast portion of Georgia with our soil type is proving very beneficial. When I look at the amount of the total contract, I think we'll spend probably around 10 million. Is that right? Around 10 million on the full depth between all the districts?
If it comes in at what Indigo Road, so our hope is for the more miles that we do, we're going to get more competitive in there. But that is right. That's for the total cost when the construction is in there. This is just the engineering, which is obviously a much smaller piece of it.
Well, just the way I look at it is, $8 to $10 million project. They are the middle person. They are 100,000 more. But I think the amount of issues we've had with ash roads, I think if we're going with someone who's proven that they can provide us a good solution, I think we'll work.
But Roberts Civil Engineer is not doing this. The Paragon Company, they're doing all the, they're the chemists and the engineers that's telling them what to do.
Well,
I mean,
that is correct.
no other company can do it with Paragon and do the same thing.
But what we're voting on here is for the engineering firm is going to set the team up. And another reason why I feel comfortable with Roberts Engineering is, like our county manager just said, is the amount of test samples they're putting in the quote up front. Because as we've seen from our own core samples we've taken over the years, you may start one in the road that's 4 inches deep, and by the time you get to the end of it, it's 16 inches deep. So your mix design at one end of the road is going to be different from the other end, and that's on the same road. So the only way you're going to know that is if you take tons of samples. And I think Roberts covered that in their quote.
But nobody else.
Change orders, I think.
Well, I haven't seen anything else, so I don't have anything on the quote. Except Roberts, that's all I've heard of. I don't have nothing about Atlas or the other one, so I am not going to vote for it. Y'all do what you want to.
No, that's fair. I just don't want to hold ourselves up, especially with the road conditions that we have. When we got somebody right in front of us that has a proven track record, we can move forward.
For 1 mile of road, that's what that's really, yeah, you need to bet on that. 1 mile of road they fixed.
You got 2 other people that could have bid it, right? They could have been fighting more, but they just didn't. We could go to the next meeting and then still not have anything.
But I don't know what the other was bid on it. Anyway. Did you know what the others bid on it? Did you know what the others bid on it?
Project, the engineering part, that's it.
You know what Atlas and the other one did?
Alice is in there and Coleman's in there as far as projects for engineering.
You know exactly what samples they took, and just like, the other one. Well, I don't have none of that. It's not in this book. That's what I'm going about.
There is at the last page where we break down all the levels of services and the prices given by each one. But what we did was we based it all on 16 weeks of construction, which was the low construction time by one of the bidders, right? And so, like I said, the engineer doesn't control construction side time, so we equalized it so that they would all be bidding on apples to apples on this, and that's how we got that those prices that we included in your packet at the end. Because if you look at the total, they're going to range wildly by nearly $190,000, but that's not giving you accurate information, because one side is predicting 26 weeks of construction, the other side is predicting 16 weeks, right? And so in order to be fair in the process, we made them all 16 weeks, since the engineer does not control construction time, if that makes sense. And that's what we presented you. But that being said, the staff is still recommending the higher bid, basically the one that would have come in second once you equalize them, simply based on the second component of the proposal that we asked for, which was their project approach.
Any other discussion?
I mean, that, with the track record, I'm not gonna let that amount of money stand between us and fixing the roads. I wasn't here when we put this ash on the roads, and it's an opportunity to start fixing it. And
I think that's
I'm just,
that's the
you know,
thing on this thing.
Time factor is what I get most of these situations, pull stuff fixed, and I keep going back to we've got somebody who has performed and responded and qualified. But I think Commissioner Lover did make a motion.
yeah.
He made a motion
I made a motion to table it.
to table. Is there a second? Is there another motion to entertain?
I'll make a motion to approve Roberts Engineering for full reclamation of Polar Ash roads on the 2021 T-Splosh project list.
I'll second that.
Motion approved by Commissioner Deloach, second by Commissioner Floyd. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
No.
So the motion carries with one no vote.
So what we've done, the commissioners have sit here, and we have our county engineer, and he made decisions for the county. We didn't have any say so who's doing that road, and that is our job. It's not his job, it's not our engineer's job to tell us what we don't do. That's what they did on this. They told us what we was gonna do. They gave us two options. And y'all took the other one, which they made the motion to do it. That is not their job.
They gave us a recommendation.
That's all
We
I'm
just
saying.
voted to
Based on
support
the recommendation.
their
I
recommendation.
mean, there is a certain amount of trust we got with our staff.
But you didn't have another option. You had to take that or table it. You didn't have no choice. On the next thing, you look on our next one, now that's the way it should have been done, so go to the next one.
I've had my
It is 6 PM. You suggest we take a break, move on to the planning, and then come back, or what's your?
We only have a few more items.
We will get through these guys.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Number 14, consideration to approve the award contract task order to PON, POND, for architectural services to develop the county building space allocation and assessment staff, the city master plan.
Talk about that. Okay. Effingham County requested proposal for qualified consultants under the IDC. This would be the third contract to provide architectural services, develop a county facility master plan. The master plan is basically going to assess all of our existing facilities. It's going to actually help coordinate some of our SPLOST recommendations. We submitted this out and received 4 submittals back. We are, in this case, recommending the low bidder, which is PON. We've had good success with PON with regards to the transportation master plan so far. Staff is recommending approval in the award of $69,864, which is this is a budgeted item for 2022, and that is below the budgeted amount.
You remember what that budget was?
I believe it was $120,000.
Considerable saving. There I can see, going with a low bidder, you've got, everybody's qualified to do the same thing. In addition to having a low bid, you've got 8 weeks versus 13 weeks, 21 weeks, 21 weeks.
Well, we've used this contract, we've used these folks before too.
Right.
Successful.
Any questions or discussion? You entertain a motion?
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
So, motion approved by Commissioner Ford. Is that Commissioner Kiefer? Second. Commissioner Kiefer gives us a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion carries. Number
If we
15.
could wait on the next one if you want to hold off. I'm just kidding, it's a ballpark.
Now, explain this one to me too, Tim. This consideration to approve contract 2130-002 Rain and Shine Irrigation, LLC for McCall Park Improvement. So is this the beginning of?
This is the whole contract. It's just that the company's name is Rain and Shine Irrigation,
Oh, so they
but
just
they
threw
are
it.
doing the entire
That
construction.
threw me off of that. I didn't know if we were doing irrigation or what, but yeah, I'm extremely excited about that. It's been a long time coming for people in District 2 along the McCall roads.
Well, staff is recommending approval of the contract, so that's great. There were 12 different items listed for the bid tabulation. You should have a full copy of that in your packets with 4 additional alternate options. I believe they're only going with alternates 1 through 3, but they do want to include all 12 of the other bid items. Staff's recommending approval for Rain and Shine Irrigation. It looks like the total is going to be $419,600.
We should also note that we did receive $75,000 from Omnitrack, so we're not paying that total amount. And the county's going to get a great park on that end of the county, which we don't have right now. Entertain the motion, please.
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
We're just going to make it real. Motion to approve by Commissioner Deloach, and a second by Commissioner Loper. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. And it carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Mr. Gruber, consideration to approve the license agreement with
Pictometry.
International Corporation for Aerial Imagery Services.
Yes, this is an add-on feature to the aerial photography we currently have. This would help our office find changes to structures, and it's a 3-year agreement at $5,000 a year.
How would this help us?
Well, it It identifies any structure that may have changed, so it compares 2018 aerial photography to 2021, and automatically highlights every structure that has changed.
So it's an automated
Yes.
type thing, right? So you don't- people have to view and go through each one of them, and they see a new structure, hey, something.
That's correct.
Any other questions or discussion?
Make a motion to approve ordinance number 1.
Second.
Motion approved by Commissioner Lovell with a second by Commissioner Deloach. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. And it carries. Thank you. Number 17 is consideration to approve a service strategy agreement between Effingham County and the cities of Lincoln, Springfield, and Guyton.
Yes, sir. Hopefully this will wrap this up, and once you all approve it, we will send it back to Guyton, Lincoln, and Springfield. Lincoln, once you all originally approved the initial draft, had some recommendations on some changes. They've agreed to swap some land in our service areas. Since we are running a water line up McCall, there was a small section of land that was in their service district that we will be getting in exchange. There's some land on the just south of where Omnitrax is in their service, in our service area that they will be getting on their side of McCall. The only request that they had for that was that they be able to tap into that line if need be to provide their customers under the existing service agreement that we have with them right now, wholesale agreement that we have them with right now. We do not have a problem with that. And there were some minor wording changes with regards to the application process for service on water and sewer. Those have been reviewed, and staff is recommending alternative 1, which is approval of the service delivery agreement as amended.
Any questions or discussion? Entertain a motion, please.
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
Motion approved by Commissioner Deloach, with a second by Commissioner Kiefer. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. And it carries. Number 18 is consideration to approve utility relocation agreement with the Georgia Department of Transportation related to the Effingham Parkway.
Yes, this is just one other document that we needed with regards to Effingham Parkway. Under the current PFA agreement that the county has and the board has approved with the Georgia Department of Transportation regarding utility relocation, Effingham County is responsible for all costs associated with utility relocation. This basically just codifies that in a separate agreement with them. And staff is recommending alternative 1, which is approving the utility relocation agreement with GDOT for Effingham Parkway.
That's another project I know of. Get this thing started. Any questions or discussion?
Make a motion to approve ordinance number 1.
Second.
Motion approved by Commissioner Lover, with a second by Commissioner Kiefer. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. And it carries. Lastly, number 19, consideration to approve the revised final plat for Barrister Crossing located off Courthouse Road to allow recreational lot number 74, to be utilized as a residential lot, map number 374A, parcel number 74 in the 4th District. Mr. Resell.
So Mr. Stewart, Mike Stewart, who owns the remaining lots in Barrister Crossing, approached us about changing the designation of Lot 74 from recreation to residential. And we did some research into the files. We really don't have a whole lot related to the original approval. I mean, we have a plat, we have files, we just don't have a lot of notes on discussions of why that lot was designated as recreation, what was envisioned for it, whether there was an HOA. In fact, Mr. Stewart said that he designated it as recreation and wrote through it at some point. So, you know, he said, she said. So I discussed this with the county clerk and also the county engineer, and we determined that there didn't seem to be any, if it currently wasn't in demand as a recreation lot, and there didn't seem to be any stormwater issues. In fact, it's located next to the lot that holds the retention pond, and Mr. Stewart offered to increase the size of that lot and reduce the size of the recreation lot in order to bring it in compliance with the other lots, residential lots in the subdivision. So we determined that that probably was a good solution, and are recommending approval. This lot will be served by community water and individual septic system. And of course, you know, that approval is separate. You have to go to the health department and get approval for that. And of course, as this was initially approved as a final plat and approved by the board of commissioners, it has to come back before you and then they'll approve, you'll have to approve the revision.
Any questions or comments?
Make a motion to approve ordinance number 1.
Second.
Motion approved by Commissioner Lakewood, with a second by Commissioner Lynch. And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And carries.
Thank you.
That will take care of everything up to the planning board and the staff in executive session. Then we want to take a break and we'll open the public tonight. And a lot of them's come in since we've started. And it's a huge agenda tonight, so we're getting through it quick as we possibly can. It's going to take 5 minutes and we'll reconvene and move on to the planning board.
No, but he did, it's just, see, this is here, Craig. He didn't have the experience. It's just narrow. One assumption. But here's what it is.
That would be the portion. City's not here, that one is the county.
Thank you. That what you do? Get a chance. We run out too.
Are those the? Oh. Yeah, my daughter got it. I was gonna try to sample it. Oh, yeah.
Someone may be on that. It doesn't hang up for someone to come up.
We approved that, didn't we? Ready to continue?
Yeah. Well, I thought you were good about the nerve, but just the nerve right now.
So we'll continue on. I appreciate you guys' patience. We definitely want to honor your time. I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. Number one is the planning board recommends approving an application by Caitlin Warren for a variance located at 157 Sand Hill Road to reduce the required AR1 setbacks from 25 feet to 15 feet to allow for the replacement of a mobile home, map number 304B, parcel number 12E in the first district.
So there is an existing mobile home, as you can see, this is from Public, and the applicant wishes to replace it with that lot is 80 by 14, they wish to replace it with one new mobile home that's 68 by 32, so it actually won't encroach as much on the side setbacks, but it will still be about 15 feet rather than the 25 required in AR1, so they're asking for a variance to the side setback requirements so they can have it parallel to the road rather than have to go perpendicular to the road. And in fact, at the planning board, one of the neighbors came to speak in favor and said, please let them position it this way, even if it does infringe on side setbacks, so everyone looks uniform. So staff are recommending approval.
Thank you. We'll open up a public hearing. Ask for anybody speaking for this tonight. You will state your name. You're speaking for it.
Yeah, I'm Caitlin.
Okay.
Just so that if we don't put it parallel, we would have to do a new septic tank and everything because our property goes down at an angle. So if we were to have to turn it sideways and put it this way, we'd have to redo the septic tank, the drain field, and everything like that. So just more reason for us to put it parallel to the road than to...
That would show the hardship.
Yes.
In this case. Anyone else speaking for this tonight? Anyone speaking against it? I'll close the public hearing. Questions from the board?
Very straightforward.
Entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve number one with staff and planning board recommendation.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Floyd and a second by Commissioner Kiefer. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposing, no. And that carries. And the second reading is consideration to approve the second reading of Caitlin Warren for a variance located at 157 St. Hill Road to reduce the required AR side setbacks from 25 feet to 15 feet to allow for the replacement of a mobile home, map number 304B, parcel number 12E in the first district.
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion approved by Commissioner Floyd and second by Commissioner Deloach. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. And it carries. Planning board recommends denying an application by Kit Elmore as agent for Middle Timber Company for variance located on Middle Road from the required 800-foot block length for meadows at Midland Subdivision, map number 324, parcel number 115B in the first district.
So we recently approved a rezoning and sketch plan for this proposed development, and during the sketch plan approval process, staff did mention that there were some lingering issues with the block length, and we intended to resolve them with the applicant after the sketch plan, and that's what we did. We sent a notice to proceed in which we did reiterate the block length requirement and the sidewalk requirement and all the additional ordinance requirements related to subdivisions. So we did meet with the applicant and engineer and discussed all the different options available. There are extensive wetlands, so that is a consideration, and to some, I think the applicant would say a hardship, but the county engineer did offer suggestions on how, moving the cul-de-sac, the bulk inwards and creating lots around that. So there are other options. In any sense, the proposed length of the street is about 1,200 feet, and the county ordinance does indicate that 800 is the limit. Between 400 and 800 is the optimal limit for a street length, be it a cul-de-sac or an actual block in the subdivision. And so we are recommending denial, and the planning board also agreed with that, based on the fact that the county ordinance specifies 800 feet as a block length.
Open up the public hearing. Is anybody here tonight to speak for this? Anyone here to speak against it? With that, I'll close the public hearing. Any questions or discussions, or entertain a motion?
That's what I'm talking to Teresa. I'll go along with both staff and planning board recommendation and deny this request.
Second.
It's alternative two.
Alternative.
Motion to deny the request, alternative two by Commissioner Floyd, with a second by Commissioner DeLoach. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. And that one is denied, so we do not need a second reading. So that will move us on to number 5. The planning board recommends denying an application by Kent Elmore as agent for Millen Timber Company for a variance located on Miller Road to eliminate the sidewalk requirement for Midland Meadows and Midland subdivision, map number 324, parcel number 115B in the first district.
So this is the same sketch plan, and at the meeting that we had after the sketch plan was approved, we did discuss sidewalks. The lots are fairly sizable, and we did discuss actually how far the houses would be set back and how long the driveway is going to be and how that would infringe with the sidewalks. So we discussed sidewalks, and the applicants actually said, oh no, we're going to make really nice long driveways, and there will be no impact on the sidewalks. The proposed width of the street is 22 feet, which, with 2 lanes, which does not allow for on-street parking. This is a narrow street, and their proposal was a 1,200-foot length originally, and potentially, cars could reach some speed. And then not having sidewalks and then having families with children in strollers, kids on bikes, it just seems dangerous. And staff are recommending denial as is the planning board, just due to safety factor.
That'll open up the public hearing. Is there anyone speaking for this tonight? Anyone speaking against it tonight? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. Any motion, any questions?
We've been pretty clear that they don't want to have sidewalks. So again, I support the staff and planning board and alternative 2 deny this.
Second.
Motion for alternative 2 denying it from Commissioner Floyd, and a second by Commissioner DeLoach. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. And it is denied, so no need for a second reading on number 6. Okay, number 7. Planning board recommends approving an application by Ed Garvin as agent for Martha Sloan and the estate of James Allen to rezone 4.85 acres out of 112.42 acres located at 2361 U.S. Highway 80 from AR1 to AR2 to allow for division of the parcel map number 354, parcel number 21 in the first district.
So this 112-acre tract is to be split into up to 4 parcels, I believe. And that's fine, and if it is 4 parcels, ultimately we have to come back before you as a major subdivision final plat. But when we did the initial review of the plat, we saw that this one section south of Highway 80 is 4.58 acres, and actually the owners intend to split that off and completely separate it. So that does have to be rezoned before any action can take place. With this, the proposal tonight, if you approve it, rezone that 4.58 acres, they've asked that we sign a plat, tomorrow probably, to split this into 2, and then the buyers of the larger tract will then dispose of it as they see fit. But for today, it's just a rezone so they can split off the portion south of the highway.
With that, we'll open up the public hearing. Is anybody here tonight to speak for this? Anyone here to speak against it? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. Entertain a motion or comments?
Make a motion to approve with the 2 statements made along with that alternative 1.
Second.
Recommendation for approval by Commissioner Floyd with a second by Commissioner Loper. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. And it carries. Consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Ed Garvin as agent for Martha Sloan and the estate of James Allen to rezone 4.85 acres at 112.42 acres located at 2361 U.S. Highway 80 from AR1 to AR2 to allow for division of the parcel map number 354, parcel number 21 in the first district. Any motion?
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Floyd. Motion second by Commissioner Kiefer. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. And it carries. Planning Board recommends approving an application by Brian K. Davis as agent for the estate of Ida R. Hagan to rezone 6.75 acres located at 3135 US Highway 80 from AR1 to R1 and B3 to allow for residential and commercial uses, map number 378, parcel number 13 in the first district.
So this lot is 6.75 acres, and it wasn't included, the subdivision next to it that you see there, Woodlawn and Thompson Streets, is the Thompson subdivision. We do actually the plat for that. It's a nice old one. And so this it's listed here as 5.7 acres, but in fact on the tax assessor website it shows up as 6.75. The current, the agent is asking that it be rezoned. There will be proposals to split it approximately in half, and in the rear, place 6 residential parcels. There's a water, there's a community water system there, and the proposal is to tie, Lakeside Water Company, they would propose to tie into that. Each of those lots show the proposed driveway. So 2 would access here, 2 would come this way, 2 would come that way, so not overburdening any particular street. And then in the front, split off the front portion into, the initial proposal is, 3 1 acre B3 lots. They realize, of course, that this is a GDOT encroachment issue here, so it may end up with 1 driveway, it may end up with 1 3 acre B3 lot. They're not sure of their plans for that, but the request is for B3 in the front and R1 in the back. This area, as you probably know, is pretty heavily commercial, especially on the south side. Just across the street is Hometown Auto. There's, Parker's gas station on the street. There's a good bit of commercial happening here. So it would just be adding this, continuing that trend along Highway 80 with keeping residential in the back to join this residential area.
All the commercial has access to 80. All the commercial space at 80, correct?
All the commercial would be, I think that would be a requirement that, it actually can't. There's only one portion that could potentially access that side lot, which is that Ziegler Fork, Ziegler Fork Road. We could make a specification that they not access that. It really kind of, if they end up having difficulty getting access on Highway 80, it's possible it could come back to us with a proposal, but that wasn't something that came up. And the only concern from neighbors, the main concern from neighbors was any additional traffic, but really only 2 extra houses on each of these streets. So that may or may not add a change to the neighborhood. But there was concern about the buffers and whether residential or commercial activity here would bring in people who would loiter and perhaps end up in the residential areas. And we stated that the buffer ordinance requires a 30-foot buffer containing 1 tree at least 2 inches. Every 30 linear feet is required to be residential and commercial zoning districts, and that's the substance of our buffer requirement there. So this strip here would require 30 feet of vegetative buffer.
Any more questions for staff? With that, I'll open up the public hearing. Is anyone here tonight to speak for this?
Good evening. My name is Brian Davis, and I'm the agent representing the estate of the Hagan family. They have approached us to help them come up with a plan for the property, and we had reached out to the planning and zoning staff. And originally, the family was looking at trying to see if the entire parcel could be commercial, but we advised them it would be more favorable for the neighborhood if the back half stayed residential to kind of protect the residential environment of that neighborhood, and then to keep the front commercial, since that's the highest and best use with the 5-lane right on Highway 80, and that it's not as desirable to develop for residential. So we are asking for it to be approved as proposed.
Anyone else speaking for this tonight? Is there anyone speaking against this tonight? With that, I'll close the public hearing. Entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve alternative 1 with the 4 stipulations provided by staff and the planning board.
Second. Motion approved by Commissioner Floyd, second by Commissioner Loper. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. And it carries. Consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Brian K. Davis as agent for the estate of Ida R. Hagan to rezone 6.75 acres located at 3135 US Highway 80 from AR1 to R1 and B3 to allow for residential and commercial uses, map number 378, parcel number 13 in the first district.
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second. Got a motion to approve by Commissioner Floyd. Knew which one was second. Commissioner Loper. Commissioner Loper was the second on that. All in favor of it, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And it carries. The Planning Board recommends approving an application by Christopher Moon to rezone 2.22 acres located at 120 East Road from AR1 to B1 to allow for development of a mini storage and RV/boat parking facility, map number 396, parcel number 19 in the first district.
So this area is mostly AR1, oh, it's mostly residential, but as you see up here, that is the closest commercial zoning. It's not actually developed, but that was rezoned in 2007, and it doesn't appear to have been developed at any point, but it is a pretty heavily residential focused area. Across the street from the site is a church, so this church here, so there is, some extra traffic at different times of the week. The applicant has been actually in touch with our office over the past several months talking about different options for this property, and he submitted this application to rezone for mini storage, which he feels would serve the surrounding areas, and when we all approved mini storage as a permitted use in B1, B2 last year. It was for this express purpose, to make it easier for residential areas to have a less intensive upzoning than B3, which was very intensive, which would have been probably too intensive for this area. So B2, or I'm sorry, this is B1. B1 is the most minimal of the commercial zonings, and it's really the commercial light. Staff have reviewed this and determined that the next step would be a sketch plan anyway, so he'll be back before you for sketch plan, and if that were approved, we'll be back with staff and our engineers to review site development plans. So this will be carefully scrutinized all throughout its path towards fruition. But there was one person at the planning board who expressed concern about stormwater runoff, and I think there might be some water holding problems on the property, but the county engineer did note that during the site development plan review, we would take care of that. Any pond, the pond would have to accommodate stormwater, so we should take care of that problem. In fact, we solve the problem during the site development. So staff are recommending alternative 1 for approval.
So I'll open up the public hearing. Speaking for this,
Hi, I'm Chris Moon. I'm the owner of the property. Basically, what she said is everything's correct. We're taking it baby steps, making sure everything's done properly. As far as the water situation...
You're Mr. Moon?
Yes, I am Mr. Moon. Sorry. As far as the water situation, that property has never been flooded. The neighboring property, when a heavy rain comes in, it has some standing water for, an hour or two. But it is at a lower level. We will be putting in fill dirt and all that to, raise the level to make sure that there's no problem and everything proper with engineering will be done. And here, if any other questions arise.
It'll be interesting whenever the engineering is done. That's another area. I've seen water there.
Half of the...
That's what we...
Huh?
No,
oh, okay. I was going to say, well, half the property is actually in flood zone X, so it's not flooded, and the other one's in A, so it's just barely going into the flood zone. And that's why we're looking at putting some fill dirt in there to raise that up.
Anyone else speaking for this project? Anyone speaking against the rezoning? With that, I'll close the public hearing. Entertain a motion.
I don't feedback from everybody else. I've always been one to support property rights. This isn't, I don't know that I would consider the spots on there. Is a church right next to it, but it's kind of off the beaten path. And it has low impact business. So I'm not against it. I just want, if there's any feedback from you guys.
A lot of things I look at are if it's something that's going into an area that doesn't have a lot of or similar zoning, or is there opposition? But we don't have any opposition.
There's a demand for a boat storage.
Yeah, you may need some votes on the property from what I hear.
I mean, I don't frequent this area much, but it's kind of a little place to grow a commercial, you know?
I just wanted feedback. With that said, I'll propose alternative one for approval with the stipulations by planning board staff.
Second. The recommendation for approval, Commissioner Floyd, and second by Commissioner Loper. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. And it carries. Consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Christopher Moody to rezone 2.22 acres located at 120 Nice Road from AR1 to B1 to allow for the development of mini storage and RV/boat parking facility, map number 396, parcel number 19 in the first district. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to read the second reading.
Second. Motion to approve by Commissioner Floyd, second by Commissioner Loper. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. And it carries. Consideration to approve this. Oh, I'm sorry. The planning board recommends approving an application by Valerie Neeson to rezone 3.497 acres out of 7.04 acres located at 380 Griffin Lake Road from AR1 to AR2 to allow for the division and recombination of the parcel map number 235, parcel number 5 in the third district.
So this 7.04 acre parcel is proposed to be split, basically, as you see here, this line is split along here, and retain this as a home site, and then recombine this portion with this property which they already own. So in order to do that, they'll end up with 3.5 acre parcels. They have to, the whole thing has to be rezoned AR2. Oh no, I'm sorry, this is to be rezoned AR2. This stays AR1 and is combined with this existing AR1 property.
I'll open up the public hearing. Is anybody here tonight to speak for this? Please state your name.
Valerie Neesmith, and this is my husband, David. And that's pretty much everything that she said, where you see that it says David Neesmith up on the left-hand side. We would just tie that back piece in with the 5 acres that we already own. There's just ponds back there on that back portion, so it's not buildable anyways. That's pretty much it.
Anyone else here speaking for this tonight? Is there anyone here tonight speaking against this? Then I'll close the public hearing. Can you take a motion or discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve staff and planning board recommendations.
Second. Motion approved by Commissioner Deloach, and second by Commissioner Loper. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. And it carries. Consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Valerie Neesmith to rezone 3.497 acres out of 7.04 acres located at 380 Griffin Lake Road from AR1 to AR2 to allow for the division and recombination of the parcel map number 235, parcel number 5 in the third district.
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Okay. Motion approved by Commissioner DeLoach, with a second by Commissioner Loper. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. And it carries. Item number 15, the planning board recommends approving an application by Neil McKenzie as agent for Laudine, that's it, right? Laudine Webb, for a sketch plan located on Highway 119 South of the Webb Tract subdivision consisting of 283 lots, map number 344, parcel number 26 in the 3rd district.
So you, a few months ago, approved the rezoning of this tract for B2 in the front and R6 in this portion. And the proposal we have in front of you is a sketch plan for the R6 portion for residential units for phase 1 of that. It's the shaded area. The development, City of Springfield will be serving, providing water and sewer. They have approved a water sewer agreement in April of this year. At the pre-application, the sketch plan pre-application meeting, we met with the engineer and discussed some of the aspects of the initial proposed sketch plan, and they did make some adjustments based on county engineers' input, including a stub out to an adjacent property, which takes care of the 800-foot block length issue. And also, I believe you moved the mail kiosk a little bit, the entrance, to avoid the conflicts. He's lined it up with the road. So we had, a good meeting, and this sketch plan represents what we discussed at that meeting. And so staff are recommending approval.
Did we talk about another entrance? Did I recollect? Or was it just supposed to be one? I remember when we talked about this very Can you address staff first and then move to that part? Well, if that, I'll open up the public hearing and hear from you.
Yes, sir. My name is Neil McKenzie. I'm here on behalf of Ms. Webb and Mungo Homes, and we're respectfully asking the board to approve this sketch plan. We are proposing 280 lots on approximately 105 acres of upland. These homes will be, all the homes will be in conformance with the R6 classification. These will be 60-foot by 125-foot lots. We aren't asking for any changes to the ordinance or any plan, not a variance to have this approved. In regards to the access, the main access will be off of 119, lining up with the middle school. We do have an emergency access planned on the east side of the property. You'll notice on the sketch plan and on the plat, we have carved out an access easement along that eastern edge. So we will have a GDOT, driveway there, paved up to the right-of-way, and then we'll have a rock road all the way down that power line easement to access that road on the east side. So we do have a backup entrance for
I remember
the emergency
discussing it, but I didn't want to bring it up.
Yes, sir.
I felt I was mistaken on which one it was. I apologize. It's good.
Thank you. That's it. I mean, I'll be glad to answer any questions the board might have.
Anyone else speaking for this tonight? Anyone speaking against it? Then I'll close the public hearing. Entertain a motion or comments?
I'll make a motion to approve the sketch plan with staff and planning board recommendations.
Motion approved. Commissioner DeLoach with a second by Commissioner Loper. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. And it carries. Thanks.
Thank you.
We're admitting 16, 17, 18, and 19.
Mr. Chairman, I have to recuse myself from the next item due to a banking relationship with the applicant.
Yes, sir. My director should Mr. Lodge is recusing himself of the following with Jason and Nicole Ross. Now we'll bring up number 20. The planning board recommends approving an application by Jason and Nicole Ross to rezone 39.65 acres out of 257.38 acres located on Indigo Road from AR1 to I1 for a surface mine, map number 425, parcel number 26, 27, 27A in the 3rd District.
So this surface mine originally began operations, or was initially approved in 2003, according to the place which I did. The conditions at that time, the conditions were placed on that initial zoning, and I've included that zoning map amendment in your packet, included the requirement that the I1 zoning revert to AR1 after 5 years. So it should have reverted at about 2008. Well, at some point it became a bank-owned property, and during that period, and it's not totally clear from the files, but at some point in there, it did revert. It was either reverted by the request of the bank or request of the county, but it did revert. It shows up in the tax records as AR1. And just recently, or a few months ago, engineers for the owner, representing the owners, contacted our office about a zoning verification letter, which we provided, but it's AR1, and mining, surface mining in Effingham County has to be I1, so I was unable to confirm that this was in compliance, and so EPD decided that was an infringement on the permit. So in order to get that permit up and running so they can close out the pond and, or finish the pond and close out the permit. So in order to be able to close out the permit, they have to reopen the permit. In order to do that, we have to rezone it so that I can write a letter that can go into the file and make it so that everything meets EPD requirements. So this is really a request to reopen this mine that was originally rezoned back in the early 2000s. And staff are recommending approval. And the conditions were including all of the conditions that we normally include the surface mines, including the road maintenance requirements and also the designated truck route. That information will be provided to the applicant. Should you approve it, we'll make sure they have copies of all of that information.
That'll open up the public hearing. Is anyone here tonight to speak for this?
Good evening. My name is Travis Bazemore. I'm with EMC Engineering here tonight representing the applicants. Staff pretty much covered everything. I would, just like to emphasize that this is a paperwork deal. This is an existing mine. It's been around since 2003. We're just kind of having to do this because to catch up with the paperwork, basically. I did have a quick question on, and maybe I just missed this at the planning board because it was approved. And then I read through the conditions, and like I said, they may have read these out, or I missed them. And she did mention that these are the typical ones, but I would either like clarification or to request, you approve the request with items number 2, 5, and 6 omitted. Being this is an existing mine, those are really not applicable. I mean, at this point, it's been a surface mine and operating on Indigo Road. A traffic impact study really wouldn't, it's kind of a moot point at this time. So to have that as a condition, I really don't see that makes a whole lot of sense. And, surface mines are, for number 6, the site plan, development plan shall comply with Effingham County Water Resource Protection Ordinance and Stormwater Management Local Design Manual. This is permitted through the state. There's no permits that we even get with, so, I don't really understand why that would need to be a condition because it's strictly permitted through the state. There is no permit that we would get through the county other than maybe a timber permit, and that one's already covered under number 3. The designated trouts, I had kind of read through that. Again, my interpretation of it is a designated truck route in Effingham County is your 5 state routes. So, Indigo Road is not, and like I said, it's been operating. They've recently paved it, I think, within the last year, and did a bunch of work to it. And he's been operating, or they've been operating it, and you can ride down the road and there isn't any apparent damage or hurt to the road. So either, like I said, clarification or just remove those conditions because they really don't apply to what we're doing.
That was 2, 5, and 6, right, Travis?
2, 5, and 6, yes, sir.
So why would you take 5 off now?
I can address that actually.
All right.
There are a list of exemptions on the the truck ordinance. So if you're traveling to, or if you're traveling from to a origination point or to a destination point, you just take the closest route in the general direction of your destination to a truck route. So pretty much all of your, when the dirt pit was open, it was in compliance with that ordinance. As is. So
Okay.
it's not, doesn't require you to be on a truck route, just requires you to,
And like I said,
go in that direction of one.
right, so that clarifies that one. But 2 and 5 definitely, or 2 and 6, I would ask to be removed.
Just so you know, if we remove it, we can't have second reading.
Actually, you can,
We
because
can?
you're not adding anything.
Oh, okay.
So this started in 2003.
Yes, sir.
Just stopped somewhere along the line, and now it's going to start again.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty, I don't know exactly when they purchased it, but, or when the bank may own it, but it's been pretty much an operating surface mine. There may have been a little lag time in there, but it's been pretty much an operating surface mine the whole time. And it's definitely been a full-time surface mine for the past, 5 years at
How much
least.
longer would you anticipate it to operate?
I do get asked that a good bit, and it's hard to answer because, the economy has a lot to do with it. And if we have another 2008 in this county and stuff just completely comes to a stop, I mean, it may be, longer than expected. So I really don't like to put a number to it, but they're going to, continue operating until they run out of area, basically, or whatever they want, whatever they're going to be permitting when that runs out.
Yes, sir. The only thing I would note is, if you got something that happened in 2003 where almost 20 years later, the traffic has changed, our schematic has changed, our county has changed.
Right.
That's why I would maybe consider a traffic study. I'm not going to speak on that, but it's kind of my thought on that. That's the only reason I would see that. And after that much expired time, even if you did one back then, everything's different now. That's how many more people in the county have grown so much.
It's just it's already there and existing, operating, so you can't.
6 away.
I just don't know what good would come out of it. It'd be money spent for really no reason.
And move forward anyway, I guess. Definitely want to take care of our road, we just hate that.
And, yes, definitely. So that's all I had. We just.
Anyone else speaking for this tonight? Is anyone here speaking against it?
You mentioned the site development plan, which this place is already, is that something we have to have with this new stormwater?
And that's one.
Can we just have, just their drawing or whatever, will that suffice, or?
Since it's an existing location, these are generally just the list of items we have to do when we get a dirt mine or surface mine application. This is a unique situation, so.
I think you'd be grandfathered in because they're.
Well, technically, it's a new application, but in this case, we don't have a problem waiving the number 2 and number 6 on it because it's a unique circumstance.
So we can physically,
But they would have to be removed during the approval.
so can I state the removals? Is everybody's fine with that? And then we can vote on those removals, and if it doesn't carry, we'll vote.
Make that in motion 2, 5, and 6. I make a motion to approve staff recommendations with the exception of 2, 5, and 6.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion to approve with the exception of 2, 5, and 6 from Commissioner Loper, and a second by Commissioner Kiefer. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. And it carries. Consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Jason Nicole to rezone 39.65 acres out of 257.38 acres located on Indigo Road from AR1 to I1 for a service line map number 425, parcel number 26, 27, 27A in the 3rd District.
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Motion to approve second reading by Commissioner Loper, second by Commissioner Floyd. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. And it carries. Just for the record, I'll state that Commissioner Deloach is back with us now. Number 22, Planning Board recommends approving an application by Larry Deladier. Is that right? Deladier? For a rural business conditional use on 10 acres located at 1285 Ralph Ron Road to operate Patriots Butler, a firearm sales business, map number 391, parcel number 12C in the 4th District.
So this came to our attention because he is asking for a revision to his federal firearms license, and so ATL contacted us, as they always do, and asked what we needed to do in order to make this a going concern. And we told them that rural business would be the best approach because under rural business, the basic requirements are, is the intent and we've determined that the small scale business would transfer and sale of farmers and supplies is compatible with the rural setting. The structure, the business will operate out of existing structures, does have public road frontage on Ralph Farm Road, the minimum 3 acre minimum. It has been met, the property is actually 10 acres. So they, as I said, the federal firearms license application requires the applicant to certify that local zoning laws allow gun sales at the premises, and under a rural business, if that were approved, then we can issue a business license and it would work. In fact, the applicant did previously have a residential business for gun sales at a different address, but he purchased this property and wants to move here and expand a little bit, maybe use one of the outbuildings for, expand the business overall. And that's why we decided that a rural business was better rather than just continuing with a new residential business. And staff are recommending approval, and the planning board recommends approval. Oh, and the reason I have measurements here is just because we've had a few of these applications over the last few years where sometimes neighbors are concerned about a gun range happening in the back of the property, because it is 10 acres. I measured that our ordinances prohibit discharge of firearm within 300 yards of an occupied residence, and actually there's no part of this property that's not more, that's further than 900 feet. I mean, every part of this property is within 300 yards, so really you can't discharge firearms, so it can't meet up the testing range in the back.
In this case, it would be a commercial gun range. Would it classify as a commercial gun range since it would be rural business?
Well, this is not, the gun range is not.
Well, I know it's not, but it would prohibit that as well.
Oh, yeah.
With that, I'll open up the public hearing. Is somebody here tonight to speak for this? Please state your name, sir.
Larry Blighter. Thank you, Commissioner Kiefer, for straightening out my name. As stated, it's just, I had a license, or a business license at my previous residence. This is just to move it over to my new residence. There will not be any test firing of any firearms, anything on the premises. I'm not willing to accept the liability associated with that. So just be the limited sale and transfer of firearms. Now, I think my ATF application actually have, right now, it's only 4 hours per week that's going to be actual business hours where it's open to the public, so the traffic impact will be minimal also.
Were you over in Westwood Heights?
Yes, sir, I was.
Anyone else speaking for this tonight? Do we have anyone speaking against it? Then I'll close the public hearing. Questions or entertain a motion?
Make a motion to approve the planning board and staff recommendations.
Second. Motion approved by Commissioner Loper, second by Commissioner Kiefer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. And it carries. Consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Larry Belider for a rural business conditional use of 10 acres located at 1285 Ralph Ron Road to operate a Patriots Market firearm sales business, map number 391, parcel number 12C in the 4th District.
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion approved, second reading by Commissioner Lover, with a second by Commissioner DeLoach. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion carries. Planning Board recommends approving an application by James R. Gervaisi for a rural business conditional use located at 700 Race Path Road to operate Gervaisi Signs and Apparel, a printing business, map number 412, parcel number 5A02 in the 4th District.
And this is an application for a rural business conditional use, and just like the previous application, there are 4 criteria that we consider. The intent, the small-scale sign and apparel printing facility is compatible with the rural setting. It's in an existing accessory building on the property. There's public road frontage on Race Path Road, and there is 5.97 acres, so it exceeds the minimum required. Staff and county board recommend approval.
That open up a public hearing. Is anyone here tonight speaking for this?
Good evening, James Gervaisi. Everything that they said is accurate. Just have a printing business, we do screen printing signs, and everything's contained inside the building.
Anyone else here tonight speaking for this? Anyone speaking against it tonight? Thanks, sir. Then I'll close the public hearing and entertain the motion.
Make a motion to approve the planning board and staff recommendations.
Motion approved by Commissioner Loper, with second by Commissioner Kiefer. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion carries. Consideration to approve the second reading of an application by James R. Gervaisi for a rural business conditional use located at 700 Race Path Road to operate Gervaisi Signs and Apparel, a printing business, map number 412, parcel number 5A02 in the 4th District.
Make a motion to approve the second reading. Second.
Motion approved, second reading by Commissioner Lofer and second by Commissioner DeLoach. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion carries. Planning Board recommends approving the application by Gail H. Waters, to rezone 4.90 acres located on Lincoln Stillwell Road from AR1 to AR2 to bring the parcels into zoning compliance and allow for boundary adjustments, map number 462, parcel number 44, 45, 46 in the 5th District.
So these are 3 lots that are currently zoned AR1. That's really, I guess, a function of when zoning was adopted and lots of many sizes were put into the AR1 zoning district. These are all less than 2 acres each, all a little over an acre each. And the owners of the 3 lots wish to adjust property lines and have brought this plat to me, and I couldn't sign it because it would create a non-compliant lot. Once we touch the property line of a non-conforming lot, we have to fix the zoning, and unfortunately, it caused us a little delay while we had to take it through rezoning. So in order to change the property lines, the property owners will be able to sign the plat, all 3 parcels have to be rezoned to AR2, and that brings them into conformity with the ordinance.
That'll open up the public hearing. Is anyone here tonight to speak for this?
I'm Gail Waters, and we were wanting to move our property lines. And so when we applied for it, they said we would need to change from AR1 to AR2.
Is anyone else here to speak for this tonight? Anyone here speaking against this tonight? Then I'll close the public hearing. Entertain a motion.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Kiefer to approve, with a second by Commissioner Lynch. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. And it carries. Consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Gail H. Warren and Val to rezone 4.90 acres located on Lincoln Stillwell Road from AR1 to AR2 to bring parcels into zoning compliance and to allow for boundary adjustments, map number 462, parcel number 44, 45, 46 in the 5th district. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion to approve second reading by Commissioner Kiefer and a second by Commissioner Deloach. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. And it carries. Planning Board recommends approving an application by Douglas Edwards as agent for DeLand Properties LLC to rezone 1.73 acres located at 169 and 183 Commercial Court from B3 to I1 to allow for increased use of existing commercial properties. Map number 465D, parcel number 12, 13 in the 5th district.
So all of these buildings are zone B3, and that's fine. We received a call from ATF for prospective client tenants who wish to do firearms assembly, so it's metal parts assembly. I did look at the ordinance, and I didn't see how B3 could accommodate that, so I wasn't going to be able to give a verbal okay to ATF, which I normally am able to do. And we suggested that they consider either finding a site zone industrial, or they came back with the idea of just rezoning these. So the owner, in fact, wants to rezone 2 of his properties to, I suppose, expand what operations could, be in there and comply with the ordinance. The review, we focused mainly on, we didn't really focus on this being a new industrial rezoning. So in the review, I missed the fact that we also had to account for buffers. And at the planning board meeting, that was brought up, and so we immediately prepared an application for the applicant for the next planning board meeting, and it will be with you all next month for a variance. So assuming if you were to approve this, we'll proceed with the variance just to make the whole.
And that whole track behind there is what we've already reapproved,
It's
approved for
for-
burners for I-1. So
Exactly. So
industrial next.
just to be consistent, we need to account for buffers. And in this case, there is no room for buffers, so the variance request will be to eliminate the buffer requirements. And even if somebody's going to have to do, anyone, either if the entire park, wanted to turn industrial, there's residential around the side of it, so someone will have to account for buffers. And in this case, it's a very small instance. There's relatively little change in activity, and it's only came to our attention because ATF called and asked if this was appropriate for the land, for the zoning district. So we found out we had to proceed and fix the situation. But I just wanted to alert you that next month you will be hearing a variance.
And you said this is just assembly only.
This is assembly only.
testing.
This is just assembly only.
Parcel in the front's vacant, and the one down below that's industrial too, I believe. 465C7, that looks vacant.
So it looks vacant here. Yeah.
I think it's very, very well.
Yeah, there's a lot of separate floors. Yeah, pretty familiar with that part of
And I think that was kind of the intent of all those buildings, assembly, small, light industrial buildings.
That opens up the public hearing. Is anybody here tonight to speak for this?
My name is John Fisher, and as expected, staff has that correct. The intent is just to increase the ability and scope of business services that can be provided by the existing business with the completion of the assembly. It is not, there was a question there about any testing. It is not a testing facility by any means. It is a place for parts to be manufactured, and then this would allow for the assembly. And you're correct, the areas across the street from it are all currently undeveloped, and they're just vacant lots.
Anybody else speaking for this tonight? Is anyone speaking against this tonight? Then I'll close the public hearing. Any questions or motion?
Make a motion to approve it alternative one.
Second. Motion approved by Commissioner Kiefer with a second. Is that Commissioner Wilker? Yeah. Second by Commissioner Wilker. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. Motion carries. Consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Douglas Edwards as agent for Garvin Properties LLC to rezone 1.73 acres located at 169 and 183 Commercial Court from B3 to I1 to allow for increased use of existing commercial property, map number 465D, parcel number 1213 and 15.
Make a motion to approve second reading.
Second.
Motion approved, second reading by Commissioner Kiefer, with a second by Commissioner Floyd. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. And it carries. All I have for planning and zoning tonight. Vote us back to reports. Let's start with staff, any reports?
Yeah, I just got one announcement to make, and that is regarding the Transportation Master Plan. We're having a second round of public engagement on this, and it's going to, there's going to be 3 components of that. There'll be a virtual open house. Basically, you can go online and do a second round of comments on the maps. That will be from June 14th to July 2nd on the planning@pond.com/EffinghamTMP that we put an advertisement in the newspaper on that. We will have an in-person open house this Thursday, June 17th, at the Clarence Morgan complex at the gymnasium between 5:30 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. And then we will then have a virtual public meeting on this, and that will be on Tuesday, June 29th from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. But I'll send this out to you in emails. But I did want to get the word out there that we are having the meeting on Thursday between 5:30 and 7:30. And this is really starts the closure of the Transportation Master Plan because of all the public meetings and comments we've gotten so far. And then hopefully we'll have a draft to present to the board shortly thereafter.
Any other staff remarks? Cliff? Stephanie?
Yes, sir. Very quickly, your monthly report from Effingham for May, for the month of May, has been provided. It will be in your boxes. Also, Ms. Susan Davis, who is the president of Effingham Heroes. She might have spoken to some of you already. There is a festival on June 26th, beginning at 11 to 12:30. The governor will be present, and she wanted a count of dignitaries who will be present.
Is it June 26th? What was the time?
At 11 o'clock. It starts at 11.
Yeah.
She was asking me about a parade.
She did say a parade.
I didn't feel weird when she called me a dignitary.
Parade over here.
She asked me as well. I know we're going to be States for
Yeah, she said
all
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested in doing something to honor somebody or be the governor or something like that, but I don't think I want to be in the parade. That type of thing, but I will contribute. Glad to.
Thank you. So, Mr. Loper, Mr. Burdette, anybody else?
Yeah, man,
I'll have to see y'all try to do it.
I really, yeah, I'm kind of.
We're all stretched.
Gotcha. Tim, the county clerk's office and the county manager was also invited.
To the event?
It's on a Saturday.
I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay, all right, sounds good. All right, and last but not least, I'm so excited about this. You all have personal invitations for the hospital's unveiling of their new logo. On June 23rd, it begins at 5 p.m.
June what?
June 23rd?
The hospital is unveiling its new logo.
Oh.
June the
Supervisor
23rd.
Sykes. Yes, June 23rd at 5:30.
Speaking of which, did we move forward on the board, hospital board? We're going to try to make some changes so we were allowed to go up to districts and get qualified people.
That's right.
How are we going to do that?
It was to be brought to you all for your consideration and recommendation. And I think you all agreed that you were open to that. So it's just a matter of making a change in that.
Okay, great. I don't want to lose the lead. I got somebody that's in the medical field that's really interested, I think. Do
Tell
well.
her hold tight. We're almost there.
All right.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Newberry, anything for us?
No, sir.
Commissioners? Commissioner Lopez?
I don't have anything.
What's our next step on, I guess, our other Ash Road application? I know we're not doing everything full depth reclamation.
Yeah, and thanks for reminding me of that. We did put the RFP out for the construction, essentially for the milling and hot asphalt mix repaving.
So that's in process.
That's in process. We'll have it to you for vote, barring there's no issue that comes up, but it's out there right now, so we'll have it in here for vote at the next meeting, which will be on July 20th.
Okay. All right, very good. That's all I have.
Okay. Just thank you. McCall Park, I learned a lot through the process, especially about communication when we're doing something. We're widening the road and we're marking that those places off. But definitely got to communicate that to all the homes along there, that those flags don't represent where the road goes. That's utilities and right-of-ways and different things like that. And I think that got us off on the wrong foot. Again, if they're flags 20 feet from their front door, everybody goes crazy. Learned a lot. Thank you guys for being diligent with the park and getting that done. Hopefully heal some people along there. Problems that we had originally.
And after we have a pre-construction meeting on that, we will try and schedule a time to have a groundbreaking for it as well.
Thank you, sir.
I just want to address, there was a story in the TOC last week about some damage to a neighborhood on Lower Road. Truckers are missing the turn into Maricold over there. And I've been working with Tim and Eric and Brant with the IDA. If I get additional signage up there so these truckers have nowhere to turn in, they're not using the entrance in the subdivision to do their turnaround, so we are addressing that.
Brings up a quick question. Is there something we can do in the right of ways to keep big trucks off of them? There's a lot of problems
Sign up,
in the
that's about
parks.
it.
We've got no parking sign. They get ran over. Any ideas?
Yeah, I mean,
Other municipalities may do to curtail that and destroy the right of ways, and then you get big potholes and chips off the end of the road.
we try and do it with the no trucking signs, but the problem is the timing of these trucks using these right-of-ways to turn around or whatever they're doing that does the damage is impossible to predict. And so that's why those trucks that went into that neighborhood that Commissioner Floyd was mentioning were breaking the law. But we can't, under the truck ordinance, but we can't, but it's difficult to enforce it because you never know when they're going to do it. So
If
we're
the
trying to
citizen
do
was able to
is
get a
prevent.
tag number or something like that and report it, is there anything?
I mean, you could, but a resident could take a picture with a tag number and report it to the sheriff's office.
Yeah, I mean,
But that's one way. That's one way of doing it.
So the maps finally caught up. The problem is cured.
And that's what we're doing. We're trying to fix the Google Maps to prevent them from having to turn around.
The guy in the truck is just going by the GPS, it leads them into the development, and then they're stuck.
yeah, we're working.
Anything else? Is there a need for executive session? Can I entertain a motion for dismissal?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.